Thank you for joining us. We are delighted to have you here to welcome you to an exciting phase of your academic journey. My name is Cam Ho, and I'm the manager of graduate enrollment services with the School of Graduate Studies. Before we start, I would like to take a moment for land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the lands on which Memorial University's campuses are situated are in the traditional territories of diverse indigenous groups, and we acknowledge with respect the diverse history and cultures of the Beothuk, Mi'kmaq, Inuit, and Inuit of this province. Every year, the School of Graduate Studies, Student Life, and Graduate Students Union hosts Graduate Orientation Day for all new graduate students at Memorial University. So today's event is designed to ease your transition to your graduate program at Memorial University and introduce you to fantastic opportunities that await. And so without delaying any further, I would like to introduce you to our first speaker, Ms. Sonia Anderson. Sonia is the director of the Internationalization Office at Memorial University, and she is the driving force behind the university's internationalization efforts.
Thank you very much, Cam, for that introduction, and welcome everybody to this new semester. It's so great to see this hall completely packed. I wonder if I could just get a sense of who's in the audience. If you're from North America, Canada, US, or Mexico, can you put up your hand? Look around. Okay, if you're from South America, anyone here from South America? One, come on. Two. Okay, very good. If you're from Africa. Oh, look around. Asia, the continent of Asia. Oh, wow. And Europe. Okay, a couple. One. Huh. And Australia, New Zealand. Anyone come up here from that far? Not here yet, perhaps. So I'm Sonia, Director of the Internationalization Office. It's so lovely to see you all here. I just wanted to explain that my office is for international students who need different kinds of support, but it's also for any students from any country, including Canada, who is interested in doing part of their research or studies abroad. So we would be a good place to come first if you have that sort of an interest, and just speak to our team. Our office is located on the edge of campus, over by Allendale and Elizabeth Avenue, just basically where all the bulldozers are. We're over that way. So feel free to visit us anytime, Global Learning Center, and we have all kinds of social events as well as opportunities for you to get your social insurance number and other things. Besides that, our office will support you with immigration questions. So, you know, if you have a concern about your study permit, if you're here with your family and you're looking for your spouse to get a work permit, those kinds of things. We have a family program, so if you've brought a spouse and children, and perhaps are living temporarily and wondering about schooling, be sure to drop by. We also have supports for those kinds of things. We help you with health insurance, so if your study permit is longer than 1 year, then you can switch to provincial plan. If not, then it's a good idea to speak to, again, our office to find out what your other options are. Besides that, we've got lots of community partners and government partners over in our office. We've got the social insurance people are there, the tax people, even though an international student is, according to immigration, is a temporary resident. For tax purposes, welcome to Canada, you are a resident for tax purposes. So it's a good idea for you to learn how you can register, and because you're a student, you will actually get money back. So all those things, anything logistical about your life here, we can help, as well as supporting you if you're in a crisis. So do drop by. We look forward to seeing you in person over at our office at some point, and thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Sonia, for the message, especially about the tax. So now I would like to introduce Ms. Lisa Resto, the Associate Director with the Student Life at Memorial University.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and I'm actually thrilled to be here. Jennifer Brown is our director, and she loves the opportunity to get in front and talk directly to students. So folks who know Jennifer Brown, I always say I do a very poor impersonation of her, but I do pretty good Lisa, so you're going to get Lisa today. So as Cam said, I'm the Associate Director in Student Life. We're located on the 4th floor, the 3rd and 4th floor in the Student Center, so if you make your way over to the food court at any point, you're pretty close to where our services and supports are located, and we certainly invite you to come in, connect, and avail of those supports as you go through. We work with Sonia's office, with grad studies, with a whole variety of offices here at Memorial, all with the goal of ensuring that you're going to have what you need to be successful here at Memorial. And we're so glad you chose to come to Memorial, and we're very excited to work with you and support you through that journey. There are 4 parts of student life that you should know about. One part of what we do is we offer specific career supports. There's a very specific program for any international grad students who are here, the Professional Skills Development Program, that I highly recommend. If that's something that's of interest to you, that you want to fit into your studies, you can look for more information on that. That operates and will be operating again this fall. We also, for anyone who has an eye on their career goals long term, there's a career and graduate school fair on September 27th that you can just pop in and have a walk through, talk and network with employers if there's anything specific that you have in mind, or you're just kind of wondering what those options might look like when you're done. Our Student Experience Office operates and helps run a Student Volunteer Bureau, and that is a for students, by students support service for connecting students with volunteer opportunities that they can use to build skills, connections, networks that help them be successful, either during their time here at Memorial and in many cases after they've finished. The Student Support Office is another part of student life. And this is an office that supports students who might be dealing with complex kinds of situations, challenging family or life circumstances. And they do also support our Code of Student Conduct or our non-academic appeals process. If there are students here who are aware that they have disability and need supports to be successful, our Blunden Center for Students with Disabilities is where you're going to want to make sure you make a connection. But also, almost any one of us could experience a temporary or short-term disability. If you break your arm or your leg, or you find yourself in some other health circumstance, physical or mental health related, where it's going to impact your studies, there are supports available from an academic accommodations perspective, and it's important that everyone knows that that's available to help you make sure that you're able to continue to meet your academic responsibilities, but the institution can support you through that process. They'll work with your professors and with you and your supervisors to make sure that the supports are in place to have what you need to be successful. Thank you very much for your attention. Grad school is an exciting time, and you've made such an excellent choice in being here. Wishing you much success in your studies, research, and time at Memorial. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Lisa. Our next speaker is Fatima Mahdi, the Executive Director of Campus Life from Graduate Students Union.
Good morning, everybody, and I welcome you all to this orientation this year. And it's my pleasure to be here for your welcome. And this is Fatima Mahdi, and I am the Executive Director of Campus Life of Graduate Student Union. How many of you have ever heard about GSU or Graduate Student Union? You can raise your hands. Oh, a lot of people. But I know that they're like, as a newcomer, it might not be possible for you to know about GSU, so let me share something more about GSU, or Graduate Student Union. So GSU is run by the graduate students, and we are here to advocate for you all, and we are here to represent you at all levels. And it is actually run by graduate students. And we are actually comprised of 5 units, 5 executive directors. Here you can see. So these are the 5 executive directors, those who are running this time for the GSU. And these are actually elected by the graduate students, and our GSU is comprised of 5 units: the academic unit, external, and finance, communication, and I am taking care of campus life this time. So these are some important contexts. You can take snap of these contexts, and you can always pop in by GSU, and we are going to advocate you anywhere, wherever you need our support. And we are actually located at Field Hall, our office located at Field Hall, that is at Prince Philip Drive. You can always pop in and come up with your concerns and everything, and we are going to help you out. Okay, so that's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fatima. So now it's my great pleasure to introduce you to the Associate Vice President, Academic, and Dean of the School of Graduate Studies, Dr. Amy Warren. Dr. Warren's leadership and guidance has been instrumental in shaping the academic landscape of the School of Graduate Studies. So let's warmly welcome Dr. Warren.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? All good? Okay. Just gonna get situated here. We don't need to see my, okay, good. Seeing me live is enough. I don't think you need a picture behind me. Before I get started, I just want to do a couple of acknowledgements. So if you would be kind enough to listen to those, I'd really appreciate it. I want to acknowledge Yang Shuang Han. Yang Shuang? Yang Shuang is the marketing coordinator with the SGS. This is a very new position for her. She's been working on this orientation day and night with lots of partners, of course, but I want to thank you so much for your tireless efforts, and I also want to thank the rest of the SGS team who's helped you along the way. So I just like to acknowledge that this is the person behind all of these events alongside the GSU today, so thank you. I also want to thank CITL. These folks are amazing. They're always helping with the live streams and the audio and all the things. And I want to thank the photographers here from the GSU, as well as Rich, our university photographer. So thank you to those folks for being here all day, doing the hard work behind the cameras. And of course, I want to thank our speakers who came, even though they have very busy schedules. Lisa from Student Life, Dr. Knudsen from the IO, thank you so much for being here. And a sincere thank you to the GSU who partners with us. They're doing some fabulous events today. Get to know your GSU, get involved. It's one of the best things you can do when you're a graduate student. So thank you to the GSU and everyone else who supported us today. So I'm not going to give a traditional speech. The font is really big. Don't worry about how many pages you can see here. It's just so I can see it and not have to wear my glasses. So I want to formally welcome all of you from near and far. Dr. Knudsen showed that we have all kinds of countries, continents represented here today, and that's what makes Memorial such a great place. There's so much diversity that you can learn so much from people from different parts of the world, and you can also meet people from your part of the world who you might not have known before you came here. My name, as you know, is Amy Warren, and I'm honored to meet you all today, and I want to thank you for being here with us and joining Memorial. We have a really stellar team at the SGS, and they were good before I got here. They don't need me to run this place, but they're really, really great. And they respond to and prioritize student needs every single day. And I hope you've gotten a taste of that throughout your process of getting here. Without you, we wouldn't be here. So please always remember that. We're here no matter what. So instead of giving you a long keynote address, I've put together just a couple of slides with a few highlights of my thoughts on how you can get started on a positive note. If you'll indulge me, though, maybe I'll start with some personal things that maybe you can identify with that'll help you feel like you're not alone. For many of you, maybe most of you, you're facing a mixture of emotions. And when I was downstairs greeting some of you, the first question I asked is, do you feel more excited or do you feel more nervous? There were mixed responses. So no doubt you're feeling all kinds of different things today, and that's perfectly normal. You're facing the unknown, and many of you are traveled here from far, far away, and that in and of itself is a huge journey and a big undertaking. So I was raised here in St. John's, so I didn't have to come far to go to Memorial. I did my undergrad here and my master's degree. I went to St. Mary's University in Nova Scotia for my PhD. And outside of work, I've been married for 21 years. My husband's a saint. Don't tell him that, okay? We have to keep that a secret. I don't acknowledge that because then it'll get out of hand. I'm a mom of a 12-year-old girl, and she loves playing sports, and she's a Memorial Seahawks fan. So we start pretty young recruiting. She can't wait to be here. So keep in mind, if it's good enough for my little one, I really think it's a great place to be. When I began my PhD, I only applied to one school, not because I thought I was all that. I know I only applied to one school because I was hoping I wouldn't get in. I don't know if you can identify with that or not. But I sort of was trying to make it a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I don't get in on it and I've tried, then I don't have to do it. I was teaching at the time, freshly out of my master's degree. I was hired on a teaching term contract. And when I discovered how much I love teaching and research, I knew I had to face doing a PhD. But it wasn't easy to consider starting that program. When I was accepted, I packed up my things to go to Nova Scotia. I was really uneasy, that's putting it mildly. I was leaving my family, my mom and my siblings, just after my dad had passed away, and he was only 49. But if I wanted to teach, I had to do it. So when I arrived at orientation like this, some current PhD students spoke to us. And the first thing that the first speaker said was, you might as well say a good long goodbye to your family because you're not going to see them from here on in. That was the first thing I heard. And if there could be one thing that someone said that was the wrong thing to say at that moment to me, that was it. The second thing that happened, before I even got to Nova Scotia, we were given our course syllabus, and I was assigned to provide a presentation and a summary of this huge critical management book. So with those two things paired together, I decided that was it for me. This was a sign. My mouth is dry, just give me 1 second. I decided it was a sign, these two things. So I brought myself directly to the PhD director's office, and I said, I'm really, really sorry, but I'm quitting. And that was on day one. Thankfully, I can say that now because I was really, really ticked off. He said, you can't quit. And being someone who respected authority at probably 26 years old, I think that's how old I was, I was listening to him and he said, you have to give it a week. I gave it a week. And after a week, it got easier. After 2 weeks, even better. Then I started meeting people. So the journey doesn't necessarily start on a high where we're all gearing to go. It can be really uncertain, so you shouldn't feel alone. It's a common thing. And another common thing is to feel like, oh, I was the last one picked. And everybody feels those feelings. You made it. You're good enough to be here. You just have to be willing to kind of take it in stride, make friends, and all those things. So the first slide here says make a plan. I don't want you to think I'm asking you to do an assignment of writing down a schedule of what you want to do, what grades you want to get, et cetera, et cetera. I really don't mean it that formally. I don't want you to measure your success against anyone else, which is a common thing we do as humans. If you see someone else getting a certain grade or getting a certain supervisor or getting a certain job, you automatically feel those feelings that you're not as good. Stop doing that. In grad school, you need to focus on your journey. Set goals that are realistic for you. And guess what? When you set those goals, it's very, very likely that you're going to have to change them along the way. And that is okay. Sometimes you can't take as many courses as you thought. Sometimes you want to pick up a part-time job for whatever reason. Things change. The key piece is to give yourself a break. Don't get yourself feeling that you're not good enough. You have to let those feelings go because they're going to be a block to your success. And your success is whatever you want that to look like. It's not what someone else thinks your success is. Most of us feel uneasy when we start something new, but what's unique about being a grad student is that all of you are most likely facing things, situations, responsibilities that you didn't face when you were an undergrad. You might be parents, you might have elder family members that you have been primarily responsible for or still are responsible for. There are so many things. You could be working in your career, studying part-time. You could have left a career to come study full-time. All of these things make your journey a little bit more difficult than when you were an undergrad. You have all of these people in the room who are nodding their head. That's the part that's similar to all of you. Being a grad student is unique. So the most important thing I want you to hear today, and I know you'll hear it more than once, if you encounter a problem, you want to face it or tell someone or try to get help immediately. Don't let a problem that starts being small, kind of become this big, huge problem that we can't help you resolve. The biggest tip here today is if you run into an issue, get it resolved as quickly as possible. I'd like to now introduce you to some of the team members of the School of Graduate Studies. And I know for certain that you've heard some of these names already today, but also before you entered our campus. So I want to introduce you to Dr. Ronald Haynes. Dr. Haynes, if you would stand up. Dr. Haynes is our acting Associate Dean, and Dr. Haynes is a professor in math and statistics in the Faculty of Science. Many of you that I've met today are in the Faculty of Science, so I'm sure you're going to not only see him at the School of Graduate Studies, but he still is very attached to his students and still ventures over to his office in math. So please keep an eye out. I'm sure you'll see him all the time. I also want to reintroduce Cam. Cam is our MC today. Where did Cam go? He's hiding. Many of you may need to speak to Cam along the way. Cam is our one of our new managers at the School of Graduate Studies, and of course is our MC today, so I want to thank Cam for that. But without further ado, I want to bring up two individuals who you will probably see at least once or twice in your journey, and you've probably talked to them along the way. So I'd like to welcome Elizabeth Sims and Andrew Kim to join me, please. And both of them really love attention. No, they don't. They like being working really hard behind the scenes. They're not big on being in the front and center. But I've promised them I'll keep it short, but I want to just say a couple of things about their roles. So Elizabeth is basically our manager of finance. She's managing the people and the processes related to your payroll if you're a graduate assistant, awards and scholarships, which is pertinent to all of you or will be, and also all the things you might have to ask questions about in terms of research funding. So that's Elizabeth's role, and you'll be chatting with her, and she's going to give you a few tips now in just a second. And Andrew Kim is our Director of Enrollment. He's been with the SGS the longest out of all of us. We all ask him how to do things. And I think many of you probably have asked him right from the application stage and all throughout. You've probably gotten to know Andrew. So he advises people at all stages of their journey and will continue to do so. So he'll be no stranger to you. And I would just want to say thank you to both Elizabeth and Andrew for everything they do behind the scenes. And I want to invite them to give you a few tips from their portfolios before I conclude. I'll move back a little bit.
Okay, well, I'll keep it short and let Andrew take the lead on the academic side. But I guess in terms of finances, what I would say is it's just as important as your academics. And I know it's difficult when you're a student, but please stay on top of your tuition. So it's really important. You don't want to end up in a situation where you're just about to register for a course next semester and you owe money and you have to come to us and we have to try to figure it out for you. You also don't want to end up when you're about to graduate and you're owing money as well and you can't graduate because of it. So what I would say, I think Amy already noted this, is come to us early. If you feel like you're having issues with finances, please come to us and we'll try to figure out a plan for you. We also have, make note of your emails about your balances. Check your balances on a regular basis. It's available on self-service. If you're funded students, you can set up payroll deductions and you can come to us. You can email me or sgs@mon.ca. And you can take a portion of your funding, or even if you can do it all, you can put all of your funding towards your tuition. So I just want to note how very important that is, other than the academics. The other piece is there's graduate assistantships. So just type graduate assistantship in the MUN website, and you'll find a web page. And even check with your department. There might be opportunities for you to work as teaching assistants, research assistants, or just anything else that may come up. So they're typically about, they could range from 5 to 60 hours per semester. So check that out. And the other thing is scholarships. So if you search scholarship database on the MUN's website, you'll see that there's about 400 scholarships, internal and external, that are available to students. And they range based on your area of study, if you're part-time, full-time, and so on. And what I would say is apply for not only the bigger scholarships, but the small ones, because it's not just the amount, but also how it looks on your resume. So it's really important when you go to apply for a job when you're finished, or even if you're applying for PhD or medicine or something, it looks really good in your resume. And once you apply for one and you have that application done, then you can apply for others. So it's really easy. And if you have any questions, feel free to come to the office. We're always there to help, or email sgs@mon.ca and it'll get forwarded to our team. So welcome.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Hey everyone, it's nice to see you all. Earlier this week, one of the students who emailed me asked me if I was a robot, and so I told him I wasn't. I was human. And for some of you who've emailed, maybe you thought I was a little bit robotic. It's just my personality, right? The only thing I want to mention to you is that what you're doing is really extraordinary. You might not think that way because you may have had high aspirations for yourself in your life, but in a Canadian context, only 5% of the people in this country have master's degrees, and less than 1% have PhDs, right? And one of the reasons for that is grad school is really hard, right? But what we want you to know is you don't have to do it alone, right? The faculty and staff across all of the university's campuses are here to help you throughout the way. And I hope that you feel the same way about the faculty and staff in SGS. You know our email. Our office is right down the corner. For whatever issues that you might face in your life as a graduate student, please do reach out to us. We'll do everything that we can to help you. All right?
Thank you, Andrew. So I'm going to conclude just in a couple of minutes, but just a couple of things I want to reiterate. It's really important with communication. Like Andrew just said, this is a challenging journey, but it also can be very, very rewarding. Communicating is not just communicating with your professors and us and all the people you're meeting with the SGS and other offices here today, but it's connecting with each other. And trust me, I'm not someone who networks with tons of people. I know I'm in the wrong job. With tons of people very easily. I get nervous and all those things. But even if you connect with one person from your class, or you join a club or society based on some common interest you have with that club or society, those connections will help the hardships you face more than anything. Being lonely in graduate school is part of the struggle. And even if you're not comfortable with networking in large groups, there are all kinds of opportunities to do it in some small way. So I really encourage you to do that, even if it's just a person in a class that's taking the same course as you, or you recognize them from today. Those connections, start them sooner than later, okay? It's really, really important. And I'm going to conclude just talking about a couple of resources. On campus, we have a whole host of resources. You saw some of the booths out here today, like the Writing Center, the Blunden Center, etc. There's all kinds of academic advising resources within the SGS and outside SGS. So I just want to talk to you about a couple highlights for resources. I want you to remember the Graduate Commons. This is a place you can go to that has all kinds of orientation materials. So if you're not absorbing everything here today, don't worry. You can go there, the material's there all the time. You log on, it's a Brightspace page. It even has tools for writing your thesis, which I know seems far away right now. But along your journey, it kind of talks about different milestones and how you can succeed with those. So check out the Graduate Commons. And I believe, Lisa, you might have mentioned EDGE. I think you might have mentioned the professional development programs at MUN. Well, EDGE is the one run through SGS, and basically you sign up for as many sessions as you want to take. Everything from resume writing to working with your supervisor. I give sessions, you might see the associate dean giving sessions. It's very, very a good experience, lots of different subject areas. Please get involved with EDGE. Even if it means you only do a session a term, anything is better than nothing. When you leave with your degree, you want to have those professional skills outside of the study skills and the thesis skills. Professional skills outside of that is really important too. So I don't want you to feel bogged down and say, oh my goodness, she's telling us to do so many things. Just one of the things. Just pick one thing to do each month that's a little bit new or outside your comfort zone. Or set your own goal that works for you, like I said at the beginning, okay? So it's been really, really phenomenal getting to meet you here today. I sincerely mean it. We wouldn't be here without you. This is the most important part of our job, is prioritizing you. Being a grad student is awesome. We're here for you. Please don't forget that. If you get into any trouble, contact us sooner than later. And you're going to see me later today where I get to talk to you about academic integrity. So I'm going to apologize in advance because that one's a little bit dry. But I get to talk to you once more, so I look forward to that. And have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Amy. I'm going to put one of Amy's recommendation into practice for myself now. It's an icebreaker activity for myself and every one of you, so that we can, it's a chance for you to get to know each other a little bit better. What I would like to do now is that I would ask you guys to divide yourself into a group of 10 to 15 people. Maybe you just turn around each row and then create a group, decide it on a name, and then you get a flip chart over there, and then please write down your team's name with the number of the team member, and then work together in your group to identify 5 things in common that you all have in common, right? So that could be your hobbies, interests, experience, or anything else that, that connects you. I did this activity once, and then one thing that very funny came up with our team is that we all have Costco card. So yeah, so that's something that's very interesting. So please write down this thing on the flip chart, and then also add the name of your program, especially the word for hello in your own language, if you do have that. And the board of your group will be judged by Elizabeth Sims, our manager, and then the best board will receive a small prize from the School of Graduate Studies. So remember, this activity is not about winning, but it's just that to get to know each other better, right? So please turn around, make yourself, form a group of 10 to 15 people. Hi, welcome back everyone. I hope that you enjoy your break. I just want to have a quick words for those who came late this morning and didn't register with us. If you didn't receive the hats, make sure that you stop by and see me and then get the hats if you didn't register with us this morning, okay? Now I'm very excited to introduce our next speakers who are excellent student counselor at Memorial University. Please join me in welcome Kelly Neville, the counselor lead from Memorial Student Wellness and Counseling Center, and Sonia Ho from the School of Graduate Studies. They will be addressing the topic of Earth's most important wellness and self-care for graduate students. Over to you, Kelly.
We said we were going to rush from the corners to see who got to the mic first, but I guess I did because Sonia was so polite. I'm Kelly Neville, Wellness Lead, as Cam said, with the Student Wellness and Counseling Center. And we're going to talk a bit about self-care for the next, we have a half an hour, I believe. So, so glad that you're all here and you're starting your grad studies at Memorial University. I also did my grad studies here. My background is nursing, but I've done a lot of work in case management, counseling, mental health and psychiatry nursing, and I am certified in that area. Wellness and holistic health and health promotion and prevention and interventions has always been a great interest and love of mine. And my hobbies and interests are hiking, walking, biking, swimming, and I say those activities as I get older. There's less and less sports-like things for me as I do age gracefully, I must say. But I welcome all of you, and I spend a lot of time with my family and my children and my dogs. So over to you, Sonia.
Hi, everyone. Exciting day. Welcome. So my name is Sonia Ho. I'm the Wellness Navigator at the School of Graduate Studies. I stationed at the School of Graduate Studies here. So a little bit about myself. Kelly mentioned that she did her graduate studies here. I'm also working through my master's. Master of Education in Counseling Psychology. So I provide, I'll talk a little bit more what I actually do at the School of Graduate Studies here as we go through the presentation. In terms of interest, I have a picture here. So give you a little bit of a hint of where I come from. I was born in Hong Kong, and that was a fairly recent visit, but I went back there, and I'm interested in, I do a lot of arts activities. So you will see me throwing group sessions, doing art making sessions. So hopefully you will get a chance to join us. Okay.
All right. Sonia and I have known each other a few years now because she actually did her practicum placement with us a few years ago. So, and I do encourage you to reach out to her as you move along in your grad studies if you need to, because she actually is a wonderful, well, not actually, but she's a wonderful person and does excellent work. So we're going to collaborate on some wellness initiatives this fall. So you'll hear all about that as we move on in the semester. So I'm just going to wait a couple of seconds or so for folks to sit down before we do this next activity. With this activity, I was really glad that Sonia encouraged me to do it because as a grad student, I think over the next few years, you will need something like this at one time or another. People are like, we will. So it will help you to reset, and it's almost like a reset button, and it doesn't take very long to do, and you can practice it daily so that it does become more automatic when you do find yourself overwhelmed, distracted, not able to focus, and stressed out. So we just have one more person to find a seat, and we'll get started with this. I can't tell you to close your eyes because you do need your eyes for the very first part. So I want you to first take a deep breath in through your nose for 6 seconds or so, and then release out through your mouth for 6 seconds or so, Take another deep breath. I want you to sit comfortably. So the first thing I want you to do is you don't need to look around the room, but I would like you to focus on 5 things that you can see. Now, it could be the color of the chair, the seat in front of you. You can close your eyes if you like and picture these things in your mind. Shapes. It could be the clock on the wall or our presentation behind me. So 5 things. Now I'd like you to focus on 4 things that you can feel. Maybe it's the floor underneath your feet. Maybe it's the way that the chair is touching your back or your clothes on your arm. So take a moment to do that. Now I'd like for you to listen for 3 things that you can hear. Maybe it's the door opening in the back. Maybe it's the air circulation in the background. Someone's phone is ringing. So just let it be. 2 things that you can smell. Maybe someone has perfume on around you. Maybe it was the breakfast that you had this morning. Maybe it's something you're going to have for lunch. Maybe you have gum in your mouth. So 1 thing that you can taste. And again, maybe it's gum in your mouth, snack you had. So now, very easy to do. So I encourage you all to practice this. It will come in handy. And best wishes. So now over to Sonia, and I hope you do feel a bit more relaxed.
Okay, so so just want to talk a little bit start with what mental health is. Maybe I'll let people settle in. There are more people coming in. I think we talk a lot about physical health, right? You know that when you have issues with physical health, you go see a doctor. So physical health is more about the state of your body, but mental health is more of a state of your mind, your emotions, and your feelings. And your mental well-being would include, oftentimes we might be thinking maybe emotional, psychological well-being, but social well-being is also very important as part of your mental well-being. And sometimes when we talk about mental health, we might associate with mental illness or mental condition, but everyone really have mental health. So it is a part of everyone's life. It's important to think about that way. Okay. So like I said, mental health is health, and it's important for your well-being. And it's also unique to everyone. So everyone's mental health is different. How you experience it is different. It can change over time. So that's that's one point I want to really kind of really drive it into your memory today, maybe, that it changes, and be mindful of how your mental health is. So there is a model called the mental health continuum model. So it can ranges, your mental health can ranges from healthy to unwell, and depending what you're experiencing every day, and throughout probably your graduate life or your graduate journey, it can go kind of back and forth from one end to the other end, depending on the stresses that you may face. It can be life stresses, can be things happening back home if you're not from here, from elsewhere. Right now, it's very exciting and everything is new. But at the same time, you're trying to settle in, and probably you're moving to, it's a big transition for a lot of you. You may be moving from elsewhere, trying to find housing and settling. And so a lot of like different stresses can create, kind of make you more stressful and kind of move you from a more healthy perspective to move along the continuum. And I want to say that mental health is a little bit different from mental health, and mental illness and mental condition is different. So mental illness is often diagnosed by a professional. You can have good mental health even with a mental health condition. But you also can have poor mental health if you don't have a mental health condition. So it's important to kind of remember that and watch out for that, right? So the little continuum diagram over here that you can see, you can go from thriving. When you're thriving and you're healthy, you probably say, I got this. What does it look like? It probably looks like you're able to study well, you're able to work well, you're able to manage a lot of things, you're very social. But when you move to surviving and move to struggling, what may happen is that you'll notice maybe you feel anxious a lot, or angry, or cry a lot. You could also have a lot of mood swings, and things that are sometimes easy for you to do might not be as easy anymore. And if you notice yourself probably withdrawing from socializing with other people, that could be some signs of things that you need to watch out for. Okay. But there are there are different ways that you can kind of help yourself, right? We talk a lot about, mental health and physical health is closely related. So if you have good physical health, it can impact your mental health, and vice versa. So if you have mental health, hopefully you would have good physical health too. So when you're healthy, there are a lot of like different things you can kind of keep your mental health and mental well-being going well. So exercise, eating well, spend some time with friends, family. If you're new to this place, go meet some new people. I know it's not easy, but as you maybe join clubs and societies, and also there's lots of activities that are happening around on campus as well. Try things out. And when you move, if you do find yourself getting more stressed out or maybe struggling a little bit, there are some coping strategies that you can access within the university, and Kelly will be talking a little bit more about it, within the university as well as in the community. So some of the examples that I have on the slide include Mon Minds, which is a student peer support group, and SWCC and also SGS. I'll be doing some group kind of wellness initiatives as well regularly. And Bridge the Gap is a website through the province that you can learn more about various mental health resources. And there's also the provincial LifeWise warm line. And there's also individual help. So if you needed to talk to someone, right? So there's myself, I'm at the School of Graduate Studies, but the Student Wellness and Counseling Center have lots of great staff and colleagues that I work with. There's counselor there, psychologists there, but there's also doctors there. Again, Kelly will talk a little bit more about it. And if you are in mental health crisis, there is also help. There's mental health crisis lines that you can call. You might need to call 911, or 811 is a line that you can call to speak to a registered nurse, or go to a hospital if you really need to. but there is help. I think that's what I really wanted to say. Okay, so I guess Kelly, you can.
Thank you. I almost started in on Sonia a few minutes ago. I thought it was my turn, but I need to pay attention and be more mindful of what I'm doing. So there is a QR code there if you'd like to see where we are, because we did use this from the Canadian Mental Health Association. So just for some examples about what do you do to care for yourself. So I want you to think about this. Those sheets through the CMHA with QR code, you can download those. You could do them online. So the mental health and emotional, for example, you can do journaling and mindfulness work, and really thinking about your work-life balance. So you will have multiple days where you're working really hard on your graduate studies, but you do need to really focus and have a work-life balance. So the physical examples, and Sonia did mention this, exercising, eating nutritious foods, having good sleep, taking in enough water. It can't be all caffeine in the future. So spiritual, spending time in nature. This can look different for everyone, and all of these areas as well can look different for everyone. So getting creative, and it may be a church group that you belong to or a community. Social, calling a friend or attending events. Being part of a community and feeling like you belong really, really is very helpful to people. Intellectual, reading a book, not for your studies, something outside of that. Learning a new skill, maybe coming to the Oasis that we offer on Thursdays. On the third floor of the University Center, we have the pets, the popcorn, the pastors, painting, coloring, and there's a whole body of research out there about coloring and painting as a coping skill for adults, not only for children. And we do that on a weekly basis at our event from 10 to 2. So practical, maybe you haven't seen this one up there as part of the pie, the wellness wheel. So we're talking about doing laundry, doing your dishes, paying your bills. Maybe you need to go to the bank. Maybe you need to apply for something. There is no one in this world that can do laundry any better than me. So I'd be willing to take that challenge on with anyone. So, yes, yes. Yeah, you take half and I'll take half. So all of those skills, what you do is different for all of us, okay? So the SWCC, as we call it, or the Wellness Center, as it's been nicknamed during the pandemic. So we have an interprofessional team. So there's nurses, physicians. We should have put a QR code on this slide as well, because it would have taken you directly to our Student Wellness and Counseling page, and you can do that through Memorial Universities, and then right on the left side, there's to book an appointment. So there's health there and counseling. And then if you have a question regarding wellness or our events, health promotion, prevention, or initiatives, you can email the SWCC at mun.ca. Email. Right now, we're only open till 4. I just noticed that that has till 4:30, but starting in, well, next week, it goes to 4:30. So keep that in mind, please. And just a heads up that if you're late for an appointment or it will need to be rescheduled, and I believe they give you 15 minutes, that's for the medical appointments. Yeah, so, and I mentioned the Oasis. We do have Oasis on the go if you'd like for us to come to you in a certain department or faculty. We have social gaming group for those who have difficulty with connecting with others socially or on the neurodiversity spectrum. And we also have wellness promotion and interventions. As I said, we'll have some yoga, no, I don't think I said specifically the yoga and the mindfulness, but we'll be having that in the fall. We'll let you know where it's going to happen around campus, and that will be in the graduate newsletter. And that comes out every other week? Yeah, like every 2 weeks. So keep an eye out for what's being offered.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about School of Graduate Studies, what we'll be offering. So for the fall, I'm going to do some mostly group info session on wellness topics every Wednesday, 12 to 1 o'clock in one of the rooms just around the corner at School of Graduate Studies. So again, you will see probably them being advertised on the grant newsletter that comes out to you via email every other week. And you can also find the workshops on Edge as well. So you just need to go to a forum and then you can read more about what sessions are being offered. I'm going to offer and rotate the topics. And it's a survey as well. So if you have some topics you're interested in learning more about and want me to talk about it or invite guests to come and talk about it, do let me know. And I also offer individual counseling sessions regularly. So you just need to go to the Student Wellness and Counseling Center website, and you can book an appointment with myself or any other of my colleagues over at the center. If you do want to meet with me specifically at the School of Graduate Study, just send me an email. Okay, and there's also this Keep Me Safe, which is something that the university subscribed to. Kelly probably can speak more to it. But basically, it's a 24/7 counseling, I guess it's a counseling service, yeah. So it will be on the phone or online through chat, I believe.
Yeah, it's both. Okay. That can be offered. There's over 60 languages that sessions are being offered in. The 5 main ones are English, French, Spanish, Mandarin, and what is it? Cantonese, yeah, and Mandarin, sorry. Those outside of those 5 languages, you will need to book an appointment with them specifically, but the 5 main languages, you should be able to reach someone rather quickly. So, and you can use this anywhere that you are in the world. So, and it's for all students that attend MON. Okay, so, and I think you mentioned the LifeWise and the Warm Line. They're open from 11 or 7 in the morning, sorry, till 11 at night. There are services through 811 if you need more of crisis, immediate help for mental health. So just keep that in mind. I just want to clarify with you, Sonia, before we finish. So all students have to go through the portal, is that correct? To get a counseling appointment with you as well through graduate studies? So if a grad student specifically wants to be seen here, they say that on the online form? Or they have to email you?
Right. So the idea is that we want you to have access to mental health support as quickly as possible. So having me there, usually I only provide support for graduate students, whereas my other colleagues provide support for everyone else. So oftentimes when you you have to fill out a form the first time you request a counseling session for the semester. You have to fill out all your contact information just so that we have those information on file. So they will ask you when you're available. So basically they try to match you with whoever first available so you can get support right away. So this is how it's being done right now. So if there are others who are at the center that have more availability or quicker availability than me, they will place you with them. So if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would be with the 4 wellness navigators that are at the SWCC. So the solution-focused sessions there are so many offered daily. So if you need quicker access, then you can go through there. So, and we do also have a training program. So we have psychology doctorate students that spend a year with us being supervised by our registered psychologists. So you may see one of them for a session. Is there anything else? Or?
Just wanted to kind of clarify about the Keep Me Safe program. Well, the center only opens, like we said, 8:30 to 4:30 starting next week, right? So that's our work hours. But there are times when help is needed, but we're not there. So Keep Me Safe is a good way to kind of connect with someone right away and quickly when you need it. So that's why I put it out there. Also for graduate studies too, graduate students, you maybe travel around like when you're doing research and things like that. So you might go out of the country or to other provinces, mostly out of the country, because we as mental health professionals, we do have regulations and restrictions where we can provide services and who we can provide services to. So outside of Canada, I won't be able to talk to people outside of the Atlantic provinces, for example. Some colleagues can provide services for those within Canada, but if you do travel somewhere else to do your research or whatever sampling that you need and you need to talk to somebody, Keep Me Safe would be a good option as an alternative. Yeah.
And we've had really, really good feedback about the program from students who've used it previously. So, no, it's there. Is there anything else? Questions? Comments? We're at our time limits.
So our contact information is just up here, as well as the Student Wellness website. Feel free to take a picture or, yeah. Also, I realized that on the MunSafe app, if you ever download the MunSafe app, you can also connect to the Student Wellness and Counseling Center that way too. It's a very helpful app.
It also tells you when we're closed in the wintertime with storm days. So I think we should add Sundays on there. So when it's sunny, you get the day off too, right? So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia and Kelly. I really particularly like your advice about sleep, right? So I'm a mom, so I know what sleeplessness will cause to your mental health. So now let's welcome Dr. Ronan Haynes, Associate Dean with the School of Graduate Studies. Dr. Haynes will guide us through a topic that is very essential for every graduate student, how to succeed as a graduate student. The floor is yours now.
I'm supposedly hooked up here. Can you guys hear me? Am I on the mic? Yeah? I'll stay away from that. And the clicker?
Cam, do you have the clicker?
Someone stole the clicker. Well, welcome everybody to Memorial University and to St. John's, to Newfoundland, to Canada for some of you. Great to have you all here. Hey, we got the clicker. Clicker is not a souvenir that you get to take with you, right? So when I was asked to do this, I thought to myself, well, that's kind of a funny session to do. I don't know if I'm qualified to give a session about academic success. And you might think that's kind of funny for someone who has a PhD and who currently supervises 5 graduate students myself. But all of you folks have already been successful as academics and academically, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So it's a little bit intimidating to sort of look out at you all and think that I would have something to say to you that maybe you don't know already. And maybe I'm only fooling myself. Maybe I don't have anything to say which you don't know already. But in any case, the other thing is, you're all here with a variety of programs. Some of you are in course-based programs. Some of you are in research-based programs. Some of you will be doing practicums and internships and so on. And so it's really hard to put together a presentation which would give you some idea about how to be successful, in all of these things. So I'm not going to attempt to do that, really. I think that's really hard. Instead, hopefully there's a few things in here that all of you can take from this, and all of the pieces that I talk about might not be applicable in your own circumstances. So there are many spokes on this wheel of success that we have over here, and I'm not going to talk about all the spokes of these things. I'm going to talk a little bit about goal setting. I'm not going to talk about test taking. When I write tests, I'm on automatic pilot. I'm just in there, or when I did write tests, I'm just in there, and afterwards it's sort of a blur, right? So I have nothing practical to tell you about test taking. I will probably attend a test taking session myself at some point. So I can't give you anything really earth-shattering about that. I'll talk a little bit about organization and my own particular slant. I'll talk about computer organization and how to organize your digital life a little bit. Maybe that's something different than you would see on a bunch of websites. I'll also talk a little bit about time management and something about time blocking, if you've heard of that concept before. And again, all these things may not be useful for you. They might be completely contradictory to the way that you work now. We'll see. So setting goals. This morning we heard from other speakers about, Dr. Warren mentioned about setting goals, and I think everyone needs to think about academic success by first thinking about what's your intention? Why are you here? What's the goal of your graduate program? And in some sense, academic success depends on exactly why you're here. Are you here to take a master's degree so that you move on to a PhD? For some of you, that's true. Are you taking a master's degree as a way to move forward in your career? Is it something that your employer is asking you to do? Right? Are you in a terminal program and your goal is, so terminal in the sense at the end of your education, are you thinking about moving on to an academic career? Or would you like to get employed in industry? So there are all sorts of reasons to be here, and that's one of the things that over the next 6 months or so you should start to think about what's your really end goal here with this program. Maybe it's to move on to another program at Memorial or somewhere else. And how you gauge academic success, I think, depends on which of those outcomes you'd really like to see from your program. So what do I have written here? So let's see. So, if you're really interested in employment after graduation, then maybe timing is really important. Maybe that's a measure of academic success, that you finish the degree requirements as quickly as possible because you have a job waiting for you on the other end. So then timing's really important. You need to pay attention to course schedules. Make sure you take all the courses and you pay attention to the deadlines. You submit your thesis, exactly on schedule so that you graduate on time. Maybe as part of that you have to do internships, right, to move on in your career after graduation. So you need to think about professional development and internship opportunities. You should be talking to co-op offices and so on. And your ability to, land those internships that you really need, that's a measure of success for you. If you want to continue on in academia, Maybe you're in a PhD program or you're in a master's program, but you'd like to become a professor at a university. Then somehow the measure of academic success is different. There, the focus is typically on the publication process and publishing papers in high-quality venues so that your CV gets noticed down the road. And so, again, your measure of academic success changes depending on where you are on this chart. Maybe you're just here. I had a great uncle once who, after a full career working with the Department of Health here in Newfoundland, decided to come back to school. And he was just here for the journey. That was it. He was just here to enjoy the journey. There was no outcome other than being here to do the program. Now, that's a really nice situation to be in, and we all can't be in that situation, right? But, if that's your outcome, then success is that you soak it all in. You take in everything that's available, right? Now, you may not have the luxury to do that depending on where you sit on this chart. Okay, so you have some sort of outcome in mind, and you got to get yourself there. Well, you really need to take control of your own destiny and know about program requirements. There's no way you can be successful unless you follow the rules. And you get everything done that you need to get done. The courses, the number of courses, the particular courses. You take them when you're supposed to take them. If you have to attend seminars, you make sure you attend. You make sure you give a presentation before the end of your degree. And all of these things are outlined in this beautiful document called the University Calendar. Okay? Now, I'll say this is the driest reading on the planet, the University Calendar, right? Keep such a volume at bedside if you really have trouble falling asleep. It's not a book you read cover to cover. It's a book you look up, you search digitally for your program, and it outlines in very precise detail everything that you need to do to finish your degree program. Okay? So it's worth looking at. It really is worth looking at, and maybe print out the page that's relevant to your program and stick it up on your desk or on your wall, or put it on the screensaver on your computer, or whatever you want to do, right? Okay, use the library. So probably for most of you folks, if I asked you when was the last time you checked a book out of the library, probably a long time ago, right? I mean, most everybody is sort of accessing all of their information online through online databases and so on. So the library at Memorial has all of the sort of databases, academic databases that you may want to access. So you should become familiar with the homepage for the library. And I would suggest that instead of using Google or Google Scholar or something like that to find your academic resources, I would actually suggest using the library webpage. Now, you might say, oh, that's a bit of a pain, right? I can't just type my search into the location bar of my browser and off I go. But there's a good reason for doing it at the library. One reason is the library tracks usage. Now, I don't mean this in a really nefarious way, but it tracks usage, and it will see what types of resources are students accessing and ensure that we keep subscriptions up to academic resources in those areas. So it's really important from an information gathering point of view to use the library's webpage to do some of your searches. I want to talk about this guy here in the corner. I was an undergrad here at Memorial. I'm from Newfoundland originally, and then I went away to grad school, and then I came back after some time. But when I was here, I spent a lot of time like this guy. I actually went to the stacks in the library. Now, probably if you guys were second or third year graduate students, I could ask you, do you know how to get to the stacks in the library? And not a soul would be able to tell me how to find the stacks. But it's actually a very useful place to go. So what you do is you find out your subject area, and there's this thing, the Library of Congress classification system. So you take your subject area, right? Do we have anybody here studying earth sciences or geology? Any geologists? We have one geologist over there, right? So the QE section, you walk up to the 4th or 5th floor in the Queen Elizabeth Library here on campus, and you find the QE section of the stacks, and go check out a book that you'd like to read. Now you might say, well, why would I do that? Can't I just go to one of these, dubious websites and look for the PDF file? Well, yeah, you could. What's the benefit of going up and sitting in the stacks? Well, all along the shelf where you find the book that you're looking for are other books that are related to that book. And as an undergrad student, I spent lots of time sitting in the stacks. I'd go looking for a particular thing, and I didn't know about the dozen other books that were all around it about the same topic, things that I didn't know exist. And that's often the problem with web searches is you only find what you look for. But go spend some time in the stacks for your subject area. See what resources are there. Become familiar with what you have available online as well, but go and find somewhere comfy on the concrete floor and sit and read a little bit and browse. Then take an armful of books and find a study carrel and spend some more time learning about your particular subject area. Okay, how to be successful as an academic. Again, I'm not an expert in time management. I have procrastinated like the best of you here, for sure. I have wasted so much time in my life. I'd like to have some of it back, right, at this point in my career. But I've also done some good things when it comes to time management, right? It's how I'm able to teach my courses, supervise my grad students, write my papers, give my conference presentations, and do jobs like this in the School of Graduate Studies. So one of the things I want to talk about first, before I get into some more specifics, I think it's important that you sort of have a hierarchy of scheduling and things that you want to think about. One of them goes back to the university calendar that we talked about. So make sure that you know from a timeline point of view, what are the requirements of your program? What's due when? When should you have your courses completed? When should you begin to work on your thesis if that's part of your program? When should the thesis be submitted so that you can graduate within a specific time, if time is something that's relevant to your goals? Okay? Block out on a 2 or 3 year calendar when your work terms will be if you're doing internships or practicums. For PhD students, block out on a 4-year schedule where your comprehensive exams will normally be written. Will things change? Yeah, absolutely, right? You'll have to adapt as you go, for sure. But have a broad overview, like a year-wise calendar where you can see things in a snapshot. I think that's really important. And then within each year, you do the same thing, but at a finer schedule, right? I'm going to do these 2 courses this semester and these 2 then, and then I'm going to complete the project required for my master's degree in this semester. On the annual plan, you can also highlight when conferences will be held, when the deadline is for abstract submission, okay? When scholarships were mentioned earlier, when scholarship applications are due. So you can put this on a more annual timeline as well. So we have sort of a program overview timeline, and we have an annual timeline. And all you folks can think of a myriad of things that should go on each level here. And then if we come down another line, we have a semester-wise schedule. So this is where things like course deadlines will go, TA duties, right? The things that are repetitive week to week in your program. And it's really important to have this organization done somehow, whether this is on paper, whether you draw this on the wall with a marker, or you use some sort of calendar application on your phone or computer to do this. So I just want to talk about this idea of schedule blocking. So for a long time, my schedule looked like what you see on the left. Like, holy smokes, right? Now I will say that I grabbed this image off Google Images. It's not my calendar, but my calendar did look like that, only probably not so colorful. I wasn't even that organized, right? It was all blue, right? But these little blocks of meetings everywhere, these little hour and a half meetings throughout the day. And I found myself jumping from one thing to the next. And then I found myself, oh, geez, I only scheduled 45 minutes for this, but it's taken me an hour and a half. And now I can't do the next thing. And at some point I should just go for a coffee. Well, that's probably a good idea too, right? But I felt myself like I was a prisoner to what you see on the left. And it wasn't really flexible, right? It was holding me to unrealistic expectations. So what I do now is something more like what's on the right. I look for bigger blocks of time, not scheduled in such a fine-grained way, okay? And for example, I will have a block of time where I take care of my TA work. That would be a morning during the week, for example, that I take care of my TA work. And then I have, this is a little bit more difficult, but with course schedules, depending on how much flexibility you have, maybe you can keep your courses to 2 mornings a week instead of all throughout your whole schedule. And then you assign blocks for coursework. This is when I do my coursework. It's when I take my notes. It's when I read my notes. It's when I work on my assignments or course projects in this afternoon. And you flip from one course to another. Notice I haven't, broken it down by particular courses. I've sort of said, well, it's coursework time. I'm going to work on my courses, and I'll move naturally from one goal to the next. And research work. It's really important. Sometimes I talk to my graduate students and they say, well, I really have a hard time finding time to do research. And I said, well, let me look at your schedule. And what they show me is something like on the left, right? Is that your guys' left? Yeah, on your left. And I said, well, make no wonder you can't do any research, right? Where are you going to do it? You got 20 minutes here on Monday. You got an hour on Friday morning, but it's like from 8 to 9, and you might sleep in or whatever. You're not putting aside a block of time for your research. So you should have whatever time it takes. Maybe it's 3 afternoons a week, or maybe it's 2 mornings a week, which are dedicated to research. That's not to say that you might get halfway through that and have to switch gears because there's something due, or every week you maybe not keep the same schedule. So keep the blocks as big as possible. All right, block your time according to your particular work. Courses and meetings. I like to have all my meetings with graduate students in 2 afternoons a week. Okay, I keep them all in 2 afternoons a week instead of the shotgun approach throughout the whole week. And one of the things that I always do before I turn off the computer at the end of the day is I prepare for the next day. So I think about what it is I have to do, and I load up my desktop with the files. Suppose I have 3 projects that I need to work on. I'll have, these virtual desktops, right? I'll have 3 desktops, and all the files that I need for project 1 is on 1 desktop, 2, and 3. And I do that at the end of the day. I collect all my resources, and it's just easier to kickstart things when you come in the next morning to work. We've already heard a little bit about accommodations and accessibility services. How many students here got to do coursework as part of their degree? Pretty much everybody, I would suggest, right? Here's the funny thing. You're coming from an undergraduate degree. When I was an undergrad, I did 5 or 6 courses a semester. And then I went to grad school, and I said to my supervisor, well, how many courses should I take this semester? He said, well, 2 is probably good. 2 courses, that's nothing. I'm laughing, right? What am I going to do with the rest of my time? This is fantastic. I spent way more time on those 2 courses than I ever spent on 5 as an undergrad. They're not comparable. Now, that's at least from, in my discipline in mathematics, and I'm sure it's true in all sorts of other disciplines. Okay, so don't sort of scoff at the number of courses that you have to do. Maybe you have to do 4 or 5 in your degree and think, oh, I have all this time to do 4 or 5 courses. No problem, right? Yeah, so, pay attention to the coursework. It's not a minor part of what you have to do here. Make sure you attend lectures. These are simple, common sense things. And when you attend lectures, one of the other things is make friends. Okay, say hello, exchange contact information as much as you're comfortable doing. Okay, so that you have someone to reach out to if you happen to miss a class. These are just common sense things, but a lot of you are coming here and maybe not knowing too many people, so it's good to make sure you start to build up that support group. Office hours. The most often overlooked thing by students are office hours. I sit in my office often during office hours, and for those of you who know the reference, I'm like the Maytag repairman. Anyone know what that means? Maybe you're all too young, even if you're supposed to know what that means. The Maytag supposedly make great dishwashers. And so the joke was that the repairmen for the dishwashers would sit and have nothing to do because the dishwashers were so dependable. Well, I sit in my office during office hours, and things are stone quiet. There's no students around. I can hear the crickets and hear the birds sing. Students do not come to office hours. Or I hear footsteps outside my office door, the hesitant footsteps. And I can tell they're getting close to the door, but they're not really coming in. Take advantage of office hours. Go and talk to your professor about the course. Ask specific questions. But there are some hidden benefits, right? Often when you go to a professor's office, we all like to talk. Right, Dr. Warren? We all like to talk. So if you come there, and even if you don't have questions, we're going to talk to you and find out who you are and what you want to do. You'll get career advice, wanted or unwanted, right? It's also a technique of networking. Good person to talk to. I get 20 requests for reference letters every semester, maybe 30. And some of the students I say, I have no idea who they are. So I go back to them and say, well, I'll write you a reference letter, but all I can say is you scored 78% in first semester calculus with me 5 years ago. Now, I'm not sure what kind of a reference letter that's going to be or how useful it's going to be. The people I know are the people who've come to my office and chatted. Okay, so take advantage of the office hours. Doesn't mean you have to go every week, but 2 or 3 times during the semester, go and say hello. Get your help, have a little chat, and take from it what you can. If there are problems with courses, you are going to take some hard courses. My first semester as a graduate student, I left MUN, and I had really good grades, and I went to my first course as a graduate student, and whoa, it was like, wow, what was that? I felt completely inadequate, completely not prepared. Okay? If you feel like that, give it some time, as Dr. Warren said. Don't quit on day one, right? Give it some time. But if things still aren't going well, you should talk to somebody as soon as possible. You should talk to the instructor and your supervisor or program chair, because maybe you're not in the right class. Maybe there's a different class that you should be doing first. Maybe that's some of your issue. Maybe there's something missing in your background from your undergraduate, right, that everyone's assuming that you know. But you need to have those discussions right away before it's too late to change anything. I'm not going to say too much about this, except to say that, note-taking, the act of writing things down, maybe I'm old-fashioned, right? But the act of writing things down over and over again is sort of how I learn. And I think somehow that's starting to be missed by students. Now, I don't necessarily mean on a piece of paper, right? There's a piece of paper with all kinds of notes. It could be on an iPad or a tablet and so on. But note-taking is a really, really important thing. I used to, as an undergrad, read my lecture notes for every course every night before I went to bed. Very quickly. Now, after the first week of lectures, that's an easy task, right? It might take you 20 minutes to read all your lecture notes in all the classes. But as this semester goes on, I'm just reading, right? I'm just reading through. It's going to take you longer and longer, right? And at the end of the semester, it's probably going to take you an hour and a half or 2 hours to skim, quickly read all the lecture notes in all your classes. But I did that every night in all my classes. And it was amazing. By the end of the semester, I could close my eyes and I could see my notebook paper. I could envision the definition that I needed as well as the little, hangman art that I drew on the side. Right? I could picture those pieces of paper. They were going nowhere in my head. I can still see them when I close my eyes. All right? So that's maybe just a little trick that you can build into your schedule. Remember we had the semester calendar that I talked about? Assignment deadlines, course projects, and so on should all go on this semester calendar. What I tell my students to do, when they get an assignment or a project to do, review that request immediately. As soon as you leave lecture, review it. And make a really rough plan for how you're going to deal with that assignment. Immediately highlight things that you don't understand about the assignment, about the questions. Do that immediately, within the first day. That gives you time to go and chat with the professor about it before the assignment is due. Okay, so take care of the things that are completely foreign to you, the words you don't understand on the assignment, and so on. So I like to do that initial scan and then make a plan for the completion after you're done. And assignments, of course, give you an icebreaker during office hours. Okay, research. How many people here have to write a thesis as part of their So for some of you, a thesis is a measure of academic success. It is one of the milestones that you need to meet to finish your degree and move on to whatever is next. Okay, and for those of you moving on to PhD programs or more academic careers, it's like your first publication in a sense, right? So it's really important before you start a research program to set research expectations with your supervisor. What is the supervisor's plan for publication during your thesis? Does the supervisor have a plan of how many publications? Will they be conference publications or will they be full journal articles? What does it look like? For some of you, it will be writing a novel maybe. Anyone got to write a novel as part of their degree program? No, maybe. Right? For some of you, it may be composing a symphony. Who knows, right? It will look different for each of you. So a couple little things here. Often your supervisor will identify the key literature for you, but now it's where we come to sort of more technical tools, right? You need to do forward and backward reference searches. Now, some of these things you might know about. How many people here know Research Rabbit? All right, so everyone will be, their hits on their server are going to go way up after this talk, right? So go and learn about Research Rabbit. Really cool tool, okay, for forward and backward reference searching. And Parsif.ai is another one, which is a really new tool, which is really neat. So these are some things that you can build in. Taking care of references in literature, a bibliography. I just refereed a paper last week where I sent it back to the authors immediately because the bibliography was complete and utter crap. Not only were the key papers not there, the ones that were there I wouldn't be able to look up if I had 1,000 years because the information was all messed up, backwards, forwards. It was terrible. So work on your reference list. This is really important, and that's easier to do if you build this up gradually as you go through. The top bullet here is something that gets overlooked a lot. If you're working in a lab environment or a big research group environment, there may be a research workflow already established. And likely your supervisor won't be terribly happy for you to come in and do things completely differently from what the rest of the lab is doing. So before you establish your workflow, document management, communications amongst the group and so on, have a good sit down with members of the, I see a lot of you nodding your head, which is good. Have a sit down with the research group and figure out what the current workflow is. Okay? That's really important. So in terms of writing software, like are people using Office 365 and collaborating with Word documents online? Are people writing in Markdown and using Pandoc to do document conversions? What's happening in the lab? Likewise for sharing files, right? Are people using Dropbox, Google Drive? Are they exchanging files using Slack? Okay, or Trello or one of these things. Now, all these words may not mean anything to all of you, or all of these words may not mean anything to any one of you. But you get the idea, right? Collaborative writing. Are people working on papers together? Are we using version control in the lab? Are versions of documents being used? Are people using Git or SVN or Mercurial? Here's another important one, data tracking. How many people in part of their research are going to be dealing with data, collecting data? A lot of people. And from that data, you're going to make pictures, figures, tables, and so on. Okay? This is crucial. You want to have a very clear record of how your data was generated, when it was generated, the setup of the experiment or the parameters used in your model, or whatever the case is. You want a correspondence so that that experiment can be reproduced, whether it's a computer experiment or a lab experiment. And you need to link figures and tables to particular tables of data. Because if I look at a figure that my graduate student draws, and I say, geez, something looks weird about that. I didn't expect that. Can you go back and replot this data? Maybe plot it a slightly different way? And the student's like, well, I have a data file called data. In fact, I have 200 files called data. I wonder which one it was, right? Now, imagine having to do this with revisions of your thesis, right? A referee comes back and says, oh, I need you to replot that. And now, 4 years ago, you collected this data. Okay, so start to think about how you're going to manage that. Maybe your lab has some suggestions there. Computer organization. Is there anyone here who will not use a computer during the program? Okay, no hands. So everybody here will use computers in different ways. Now, I'm a computational mathematician, so I use computers a lot. So I'm a little bit anal about some of these things, but don't be like some people and have a gazillion icons on your desktop. If you can't see the background on your desktop, anyone in that situation? Because it's full of PDFs or whatever the case is? No, you don't want to do that. Use folders. Maybe top-level folders should look like admin, courses, research. Maybe those are good choices. And in the admin folder, you can have things like your letter of offer, communications with the university, right? Save emails from your supervisor, all of those things. You could have, under the courses heading, you could have a subdirectory for each course, for example. In the research directory, you might have a subdirectory for each project or paper, and then within those, you may have literature analysis documents and so on. But think about a bit of organization so you know where to find things. And it's great. You guys are in a great situation where you can start to do this from scratch on day one now, right? Don't wait until that desktop has so many icons on it that Windows won't boot up. Okay, I've seen it, right? Where it's like, okay, let's clean up your desktop first and see if that helps performance, right? If you want to know why your video game is not running really well, see how many icons are on your desktop. Naming conventions. This is something maybe a little bit more, out there, but use consistent naming conventions. Don't just call your file data, or data 1, data 2, data 3. Okay? What's that going to mean to you in 4 years? Nothing. Right? And here's a little one. Avoid spaces in files or directory names. Now, for those of you who are dealing with lots of data in your program, you may already know why I suggest that, but just trust me on that. Okay? Although Windows and lots of operating systems will allow you to use spaces in your file names and directory names, it's not a good idea. Okay, you can ask me about that later if you want. Backups, sharing, oh my goodness, right? We've all heard stories, and it's happened here, where unfortunately someone's laptop goes missing with the only copy of their thesis on it. What do? You're hooped? Cry. Well, yes, you cry, but when I would cry too, yeah? Okay, but then when you get over that, you know, and now you're stuck. Don't let that happen to you, okay? Backups are crucial. So take multiple backups. Everything that I do is in at least 3 places, maybe 4, okay? Sharing with other people is a form of backup because they have a copy, right? So that's kind of nice. But the last one here is maybe a point. Check with your supervisor or instructor to ensure that you don't violate any data security rules. So as part of your research, if you're collecting data, you may not be legally allowed to store that in Dropbox, for example, because their servers lie outside of Canada. That's just one example. So just ask your supervisor about that. You have this data, you know, is it okay for me to store it where I'm storing it? And that's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Haynes. I just would like to say something regarding utilizing the office hours. I was an international student myself, and then it was really intimidating to see a prof. So that's why. But try in the beginning, because it's, I shouldn't say this, but it's their job to talk to you. And then, so yeah. And also, professor have some connection with industry as well. So start to build your connection as well by seeing them if you have any questions. So do you have a question over there? Yep.
Good afternoon, sir. Yes. I'm Gayatri here, and I have a question regarding research. So is there any facility provided for the students to publish their papers in Scopus and ISI journals?
Well, yes, I mean, typically speaking, your supervisor would discuss venues with you, right? So if having an article in an indexed journal is important to you going forward, then you should certainly have that discussion with your supervisor so that those choices are made when it comes time to submit a paper for publication.
Any journals have got any MOU with the university?
There may be journals that are, certainly none in my field, but there may be journals that are associated with people at MUN, but although those could be quality venues, depending on what you're doing, I think you should, look broader in terms of venues for your work, and make sure things like the indexing, the impact factor, or anything of those measures that are important to you, make sure that those are satisfied. You're welcome.
Okay, so everyone, if you would like to stretch or use the washroom or refill your water, take 5 minutes, and then please be back here at 12:20, sorry. So for this session, we'll be joined by Dr. Amy Warren again, and then she's going to address one of the most crucial aspects of your academic journey is academic integrity. I'm sure that is a very interesting subject. So over to you, Amy.
Thank you so much, Cam. Can everybody hear me? All good? Yay. So a couple of things. This is the last session from the SGS team, and then you move on to have lots of fun events with the GSU. So I'm sorry that I have to end on such a dry topic. It would not be what I would pick to speak to you about. The Writing Center was scheduled to be here, but unfortunately they had to postpone the session at the last minute. But it's so important that we didn't want you to leave today without us at least gliding over the regulations and getting this in your head. I'm sure many of you already can appreciate academic integrity regulations, but for some of you who are leaving an undergrad program, if you didn't do a lot of writing, these things might be something you need to kind of enhance your skills on. So it's really dry, and I have to be honest, it's a bit of a downer because it's about if you do any of these things, there are potential academic penalties, including expulsion. So it's not the fun thing for me to talk about, and it's at the end of the day. So, and I know you're tired. So I'm not going to spend a full 30 minutes. We're going to try to get you out of here for sure at 12:50, I think is the end time. So I need you to really know I'm only glazing over academic integrity. The biggest message I want to give you here today that I hope you can take away is you need to, even if you think you know it all, you need to try to get into some sessions either with the Writing Center, within your own faculty they may offer sessions, using library resources, CITL resources, to make sure you're not going to make these errors that could get you in hot water in terms of academic misconduct. So I apologize for the dryness, and I apologize that it's kind of a penalty type of talk, but it's really, really important, especially in your graduate program. So what I'm going to do, which is really exciting, is I'm going to pull up our regulations, which can you get a more exciting topic than that? Probably not. But I just wanted to show you more so that look up the university calendar, get familiar with the regulations. What is and isn't considered academic misconduct? And it's pretty specific. You also have to remember the institutions that you've taken, done your degrees in may have somewhat different regulations. So it's the same as Dr. Haynes talked about knowing your program requirements. You should understand what academic misconduct looks like at Memorial, okay? So there's a couple things. Cheating on exams is kind of the easiest ones. I think you all know you can't cheat on exams. Things have gotten even more difficult to navigate because of smartphones and things like that. Generally on our campuses, you'll have rules about not taking your cell phones into exams, etc., and smartwatches. So your course professor will have guidelines about that. Your faculty will have guidelines about that. It's often on the course syllabus. So just make sure you're familiar with what those guidelines are. You don't want to get caught in a mistake and then be accused of something when you didn't intend to do wrongdoing. Impersonating someone else's misconduct. This is the big one that, from my perspective as grad students, is the most important to brush up your skills on. This is the piece, how do I know I'm not plagiarizing? What does plagiarism mean to some of you? Yell out what it means. Raise your hand and I'll call on you. What does plagiarism mean? Go ahead.
Writing about somebody's work without acknowledging
I can go home now. That's exactly perfect. Did everyone hear? Okay. So I'll repeat it because it's really important. Taking someone's work and using it in a paper or something that you're doing for a course and not acknowledging that work. It is possible to plagiarize and not have the intention of plagiarizing, but the intention doesn't matter according to the regulations. So you have to take this very, very seriously. Most of your courses are going to have papers. Some of you have theses. You need to make sure you're keeping track of what author's work you're using. You need to paraphrase it, cite it, and then put it on a reference page. Can someone tell me what paraphrase means? Go ahead, jean jacket.
Rewording someone else's intellectual property to make it more cohesive.
Excellent. Did everyone hear that? Rewording someone else's intellectual property so that it fits within your paper or work. Paraphrasing is where students were seeing more and more issues. So across Canada, if you were to Google this, academic misconduct cases are on the rise. And the pandemic actually put an extra spotlight on this. You can talk about all the reasons why. Students were more stressed, there was less time with face-to-face instructors to get this information, there was more online uses of things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I often think people who land themselves in misconduct cases, that intent wasn't there. But again, that doesn't matter, and you need to know that. It doesn't matter. If your intent wasn't there, it doesn't matter. If it's seen as plagiarism, it's seen as plagiarism. So I don't want you starting your courses and being caught off guard when you summarize something that's someone else's work and you've not done a good enough job to avoid this idea of plagiarism. So paraphrasing seems really easy based on the definition this student just gave us, and I repeat it. Paraphrasing is actually a bit of an art, and as graduate students, the goal is you get a lot better at paraphrasing than you would have been in undergrad, for example. Paraphrasing what it's not, this is really important, what it's not. Paraphrasing does not mean you simply reorder words. That is one of the biggest ways we see graduate students running into trouble with paraphrasing, particularly if in the universities you've attended haven't placed the same focus on paraphrasing, which is highly possible. We place a lot of emphasis on paraphrasing properly here. If you feel in the pit of your stomach, oof, I don't feel great about how to reword someone else's work, that is your first indication to sign up for sessions, and I'm going to give you some of those resources in a couple of seconds. We do sessions through the Writing Center, so you're not alone. You can visit the Writing Center. Take a paragraph with you to see if you're paraphrasing appropriately. Take the original source as well. So I need to tell you, as grad students, the paraphrasing piece is huge. Learning how to paraphrase, take in as much information on that as you can, okay? Professors will often, if students ask me to look at their work and the reference they're using to help guide them through paraphrasing, I do that as well. In grad school, you might just need to find the right professor who's willing to do that, because some might just lead you to the Writing Center. So you're going to have to navigate the individual nuance of your own program, okay? This piece down here, I want to just mention, is collaborating here. Oh, this one. Submitting work for one course which has been used or is being submitted for another course. We see academic misconduct cases for this coming up. It means if you're in one course and you're trying to, maybe you're overstressed and you're trying to manipulate one assignment to fit a little bit with another assignment, or maybe you duplicate it completely. If you duplicate it completely, you should know that's a definite no-no. But some students, without intent, take the same topic area and just finesse it a little bit and think that's okay to submit to another course. It is not. Coursework submitted needs to be unique to that course, to that assignment. And there's a related example to this that most students are a bit shocked about. The biggest tip I could give you about avoiding academic misconduct when it comes to your own work, besides paraphrasing, is never ever lend someone else your assignment. If someone else uses your assignment for their course and you've already used that assignment, so they essentially plagiarize you, by providing them that assignment, that is considered academic misconduct at this institution. So unfortunately, as kind as we all want to be, you have to be able to say no to that. Some of you are going to feel pressure from your peers. Oh, just let me see it. I did the course last term. No. You have to say, no, I'm too afraid. I know you wouldn't do anything, but my professors have told me best not to share assignments. If they plagiarize your work and you are a student here and they get caught because a professor recognizes they've seen this assignment before, you are party to that misconduct. It has nothing to do with your intent. Do you see? And that's one of the biggest things you really need to think about. It doesn't matter what your intent was. So traditionally, we like to share work, collaborate. Even if you work on an assignment with me, if I'm in your class, you shouldn't do that without talking to your professor. Students who collaborate on something and then submit separate works, if they look too similar, that can be academic misconduct. So any collaboration at all on a project, you chat with your prof about it. Generally speaking, if there's individual assignments, you complete it individually. So all this is really harsh advice, but I hope you can forgive me for it. It's really important. Okay. So there's a couple library resources on academic integrity. Not a couple, there's quite a few. One of the things as grad students right now, and many of you are in engineering, and not because AI misconduct happens more in engineering, I just mean AI tends to be a lot in engineering and the sciences. Well, we have AI every day emerging as a new issue in terms of academic integrity. Anybody know how people might be using AI in a not so nice way in terms of academic integrity? Give me an idea. Chat GPT. What can I do with Chat GPT right now? Well, it's going to replace me. Soon you won't need me because it'll just have a hologram and be able to tell you all the things. I hope I get to retire first, selfishly so. So when you go into library resources talks about a lot of the things that I've already talked about, collaborative work, plagiarism, so you can get it in a variety of places. But the library also has things on AI. I'm just going to go ahead a bit. Oh, maybe I don't have it there. Here we go. Current slide. So I just want to go over a couple of AI things. Universities across Canada are seeing a very big uptick in students using Chat GPT to generate full assignments. So I guess it goes without saying, don't do that. Please don't do that. Ironically, it's not just the academic misconduct within in our institution that would be considered not okay. Within most Chat GPT sources, AI generators, I think they're called, there is actually open AI usage policies. So if you look here, right here, which actually forbids you to use that and claim it as your own work. Now, we all know the internet is quite a big place, so you need to more so worry about your own institution. There are a couple tip-offs professors know for sure that show that you're using Chat GPT. Any ideas? Anyone ever fiddled with it to see what some of the problems with this is in terms of accuracy and things? What are some of the problems if you generate an assignment from this? It could be wrong. And the reference list is a big one. We have many students who, for stress or whatever reason, took the chance to use Chat GPT. They took the chance. The profs very regularly will check your reference list as a check. It's something we all do. You'll never know. But they'll take your reference list and check to see what reference it is. And sometimes if you've paraphrased something, okay. If they feel your paper's off or something, reference lists are checked all the time in grad school, all the time. If they check that reference and you've used Chat GPT, that acronym baffles me, I always have to look at it, very often those references don't exist. But grad students have submitted work with those references, so it's happening. And I can have empathy for bad choices because of stress and all that, but unfortunately, if you get caught, empathy is not part of the equation. and you can be kicked out of your program. The least penalty is a 0. You resubmit an assignment, you can't get an A on it. Second least would be you get a 0 on that assignment, which might make you fail the course. So the penalties, there's several depending on the severity. None of them are good for grad students because you got to maintain your average. So just avoid ChatGPT. However, many of you are going to be scholars in this area. It's possible, right? That's the wonderful thing about AI. I hope a third of you are going to go into this area if you're doing engineering, for example, because this is where we're going with a lot of things. So your professors are getting more and more in tune with how to use AI to teach you. So for example, I know one professor is getting students to submit an assignment based on their own search of the references and what's out there, and then they get one generated by ChatGPT, and they're getting you to do an analysis and comparison. So we can incorporate that into our teaching. Not all your professors will, but in certain faculties, for sure, you're going to be encouraged to look at this stuff. So I'm not trying to make it the nasty, nasty thing. It's just use good judgment, stay away from it, don't try to generate assignments, okay? 12:49, okay, I'm going to finish off now. I wish I had more time, but I'm going to finish off with just showing you this. The Writing Center would be a great stop for you if you want to make sure you're paraphrasing correctly, etc. On Fridays from 1 to 1:30, you can go to online sessions with the Writing Center. I just pulled up the next 3. You register online, so you just Google Writing Center at MUN, and you'll find the webpage. There's also, if you're really wanting to know about the AI stuff, CITL is also putting off some online sessions. We'll be sure to include it in your graduate newsletter, okay? This is a big topic. Don't ignore academic integrity sessions. Make time for them if you feel at all uneasy that you're going to be doing it okay. All right? Promise me, please. Promise. Promise, pinky swear. Okay. And get in touch with the regulations. Just have a look at them so that you know what's what, okay? It's been really marvelous getting to know you throughout this morning. I keep telling people, eat as much as you can. We want you well fed today. That's just a little token of our appreciation for you choosing Memorial. I can honestly say the best part of the job is seeing students and seeing them thrive and survive, but also seeing you hit some hurdles and getting through those as well. Don't forget to reach out if you need to, sgs@mun.ca. You'll get a response within 12 hours, and if it's Andrew, within 1.3 seconds. He has the world record, I think. So just reach out. Don't hesitate to reach out. There's lots of wellness supports around campus. If you're not feeling well and stressed, don't let it build up. Everybody needs a hand once in a while, okay? Anyway, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day with the GSU. And we have one award to give out for our activity, I think. I think Elizabeth is, we're going to do, the last thing we're going to do is give out the winner, right?
Yes,
yep, okay.
That's right. So before you guys depart for the campus tour, we're led by the graduate student unions. So Dr. Warren will show you who's the best. Is it?
Oh my goodness, I didn't choose.
Oh, okay.
It's not my fault.
But anyway, so
I'm just giving the prize.
You guys make it very difficult for Elizabeth to choose the winner. So yeah.
It would be too hard. So are you gonna, where do you want me to go? Good? Okay, I just put up a slide. Okay. You want, okay, is my mic on? Could you mind tapping me in again? Okay, thank you. Elizabeth doesn't like, she's going to put the announcing on me. I don't think you care about this project. So congratulations. This is our, well, is this first place winner? Yeah. First place winner, so congratulations. When you leave, please come down and get a little token. It's not, it's, you know, it's a small token of congrats. And our second place winner.
And I just want to say, new to Newfoundland is the 12 months here.
So the commonalities, new to Newfoundland, a couple of folklore majors, English majors, commonalities with swimming, so that's all great. So It looks like you had a good adventure on this activity, so that was the point, so awesome. Our second place winner, I know. So I know Andrew got a call out. I actually took a picture of this one. It actually says, everyone emailed Andrew more than once a day. So congratulations, please come down at the end and get a couple of the tokens of our appreciation. And our third place winner.
And so you have to tell us too if you're third, so you get the prizes. So just tell
Right, and you have to let us know if you're first, second, or third, because the prizes are a little bit different. So you're all spread around. So I think languages means many of you maybe speak multiple languages. Is that what that one means? Yes? Okay, that's wonderful. Dog people. I love cats. I love dogs too, but just cats a little bit more. So I love that.
I thought the emblem was pretty cool.
And the emblem, they did.
Around the world.
Look how pretty that is. That could be like a full-on emblem for a shirt. So great job. So please come up and just let Elizabeth know you're third place, and you'll get a prize. Thank you all.